I think we have everyone up on stage now, so I would like to introduce the moderator for this hour. Mr. John Derzik is the CEO of Oliver Wyman, the global leader in management consulting, and Oliver Wyman is also the research partner for World Energy Council. Now, Mr. Derzik is a frequent speaker at conferences and has been invited to present at industry and regulatory events sponsored by the World Economic Forum, Harvard Business School, World Energy Congress, and the Financial Times. So I'm going to now give the microphone over to Mr. Derzik.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be moderating this panel where the subject is overcoming the energy policy trilemma. The trilemma has been discussed pretty extensively at this conference, and of course refers to the challenge that policymakers face in balancing the three dimensions of energy policy: energy security, energy accessibility, and environmental sensitivity of energy. The research conducted by the World Energy Council and Oliver Wyman, which was summarized in this year's Trilemma report, highlights that there's no country in the world which is in the top 15 of the 129 countries we studied on all three dimensions of policy, and that countries have tended to emphasize one dimension or another in their policy. And of course, there's no one right balance for a country to find. Countries start with very different starting points in terms of natural resources, geopolitical position, culture, etc. Yet all countries do need to find a balance across these three dimensions, and it's been challenging for them to find this. The challenge is particularly acute here in Asia due to the rapid economic growth over the last few decades. Looking ahead, the challenge will get even more acute as Asia is projected to grow its share of world GDP from 28% to, say, 44% by 2035, and its share of energy consumption will correspondingly rise from about 33% to over 50% in 2035. So policymakers will feel an acute pressure to meet this rising demand and the demand for energy accessibility across the very broad population. And yet this will create issues on the other dimensions of the trilemma in terms of potential security issues from rising imports and pressure on the environment, particularly since coal is so substantial in the energy mix here in Asia. So balancing issues on the trilemma, across the trilemma, is an issue for all countries globally, and particularly acute here. Another part of our trilemma research highlighted the messages from industry to government and government to industry on how to overcome that. And in short, the message from industry to government was, give us a policy which is coherent across departments, so the Energy Department coordinating with the Transportation and the Department of the Environment, which is consistent across national, regional, and local levels, so local politics don't stop national initiatives, and which is predictable across time. So, in short, remove policy uncertainty to create a more attractive environment for both strategic and financial investors. From government to industry, the message has been engage in the policy development with us, help us invest in innovative technologies and innovation generally, and help find new investors who have a long-term outlook on the sector. So clearly there needs to be an increasing dialogue between government and industry in order to help resolve the energy trilemma. I think here today we have a terrific panel to explore these issues in more depth. Let me briefly introduce our panelists. Taner Yildiz, who is the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources in Turkey, and whose country will host the next World Energy Congress in 2016. Welcome, Minister Yildiz. Maria Vanderhoven, who's the Executive Director of the IEA. Louise Berrizbeitia, who is the Executive Vice President at CAF, the Development Bank for Latin America. And Ricardo Puliti, who's the Managing Director and Head of Energy and Natural Resources at the EBRD. So collectively, we want to explore these issues on how to balance the three dimensions of the trilemma, how investors can be attracted into the energy sector in a country, and what are some of the success stories that our panelists have seen in balancing the trilemma. So I'm going to ask them each to make some initial comments on these topics. And Minister Yildiz, I'd like to start with you.
Sayın Başkan, değerli bakanlar, Dünya Enerji Kongresi'nin değerli temsilcileri, iş dünyasının özel ve kamu sektörünün değerli temsilcileri, kıymetli basın mensupları, ben de hepinizi ülkem adına saygıyla, sevgiyle selamlayarak sözlerime başlamak istiyorum. 22.si düzenlenen ve dünyada enerji alanındaki en büyük organizasyon olan Dünya Enerji Kongresi'nin Daegu'da, Güney Kore'de bulunmuş olmaktan dolayı duyduğum memnuniyeti ifade etmek istiyorum. Tabii geçmişten gelen güçlü ve sarsılmaz bağlarımızla beraber Güney Kore ve Türkiye'nin arasındaki ilişki her geçen gün daha da güçlenmekte. Ve biz biraz önce Sayın Başkan'ın da moderatörün de bahsettiği gibi 23. Kongre'nin de ev sahipliğini yapacak olmaktan dolayı da büyük bir memnuniyet duymaktayız. Ve çok iyi bir şekilde hazırlanıyoruz ve hepinizi orada konuk olarak görmek istiyoruz. Hepinizi orada misafir etmek istiyoruz. Tabii hükümet, iş adamları, enerji politikaları ve stratejileri dünyada gelişen ekonomilerde son derece önem arz ediyor. Ekonomiler globalleşiyor, politikalar ulusallaşıyor ve bunun arasında enerji yatırımlarını oluşturabilmek, enerji arz güvenliğini oluşturmak ve bütün bunu vatandaşlarına adaletli bir şekilde yaymak, bütün bunları çevreye rağmen değil, çevreyle beraber yapabilmek tabii ki dikkat istiyor. Hele hele o ülkeler büyüyorsa, büyürken bu değişimi yönetmek, değişirken bu büyümeyi sağlamak tabii ki son derece dikkat istiyor. Hükümetler bu politikalarını ortaya koyarken hem fizibiliteye dikkat etmek durumundalar, hem de vatandaşıyla özel sektör arasındaki dengeyi tutmak durumundalar. Bu manada dünyanın ithalata bağımlı olan ülkeleriyle enerji arz güvenliğindeki primer enerji kaynaklarına sahip olan ülkeler arasındaki korelasyon, ilişki bu açıdan da son derece önemli. Zannediyorum bu kısa konuşma girişten sonra ikinci bölümde bunların detaylarına gireceğiz. Ben teşekkür ediyorum.
Maria, perhaps you could comment next.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's better. This triad of energy security, sustainability and economic development is really a familiar one in energy policy circles, and achieving secure and affordable energy security, energy supplies across the economy in support of human welfare and economic activity can really present the appearance of false trade-offs with environmental sustainability and achievement of climate goals. Now, of course, the question is, can those challenges be met simultaneously? And I think the answer is yes, but it needs something. It needs policy, technology and industry practices working together. I'll give you some examples. Responsible unconventional gas extraction has substantially cut North American carbon emissions while delivering affordable energy to the market, and renewable energy technologies are increasingly competitive in specific applications, such as bringing clean energy access to remote areas. And yet IEA analysis consistently identifies one policy area that stands to contribute the lion's share of cuts to carbon emissions, reductions in local pollution, and cost-effective energy security. And that's energy efficiency. Simply put, the cleanest megawatt will be the one we never need, and the most secure barrel of oil, the one we never burn. So in June, our World Energy Outlook Special Report, it was titled Redrawing the Energy Climate Map, examined 4 time-critical measures to help keep the door open before 2020 to the international goal of a 2 degrees Celsius trajectory. And of the four, energy efficiency alone accounted for nearly half of all carbon savings over the outlook period. And to 2035, the World Energy Outlook showed that energy efficiency accounted for 42% of carbon savings between the baseline scenario and the 450 scenario consistent with the 2 degrees path. And a special efficient world scenario shows that what can be achieved by 2035 simply by adopting known best technologies. Global energy demand cut by half compared to the baseline scenario. Oil demand peaks by 2020. Savings in natural gas are equivalent to US production in 2010. Fuel bills cut by 20% on average, and the global economy is boosted by a cumulative $18 trillion to 2035. So energy efficiency opportunities really make up an interlinked constellation, a constellation between transport, industry, buildings, and the like. Now, understanding that constellation as a market is a new undertaking, and yet this is the way to approach energy efficiency. So this year, at this Congress, we will launch our first energy efficiency market report, and that joins our market report on coal, oil, gas, and renewable energy. But it highlights something. It highlights the importance we place on energy efficiency as a hidden fuel. And there are some reasons behind that approach. Energy efficiency represents an important potential alternative to investing in traditional supply fuels, important benefits to countries looking to balance energy supply with a demand profile that supports sustainable economic growth. And in addition to avoiding the need for new energy supply infrastructure, country studies featured in this report show that energy efficiency also delivers improved service, economic productivity, consumer benefits, and reduced energy demand growth. And while this energy efficiency market is large and growing, countries can do much more to analyze the role that it can play and the level of investment needed to meet economic, security, and environmental goals. So while the issue may be not so politically exciting as new power plants, you can cut a ribbon there, and cutting-edge technologies, energy efficiency is really at the heart of any solution to your and our energy trilemma.
Thank you, Maria. Luis, would you like to go next?
Well, thank you, John. I think each region of the world has a different type of challenge regarding the energy trilemma. And as a representative of CAF, Development Bank of Latin America, I feel more comfortable speaking about my own region, Latin America, of course. And I think we are well placed to advance very positively in solving this energy trilemma for several reasons. The first one being the fact that Latin America has, in general, the cleanest or the greenest energy matrix in the world, with about 50% of our power structure based on hydroelectricity, a high proportion of energy efficient gas-fired thermal generation, increasing participation of wind power in our energy structure, and a lot of other renewables that can be used. And on the second front, on the social issues, Latin America is a highly urbanized society. Over 80% of our population lives in urban areas, and most of that population has access to electricity. There's about a small proportion, about 5% of the total Latin American population, 30 to 50 million people, who still do not have access to electricity. And of course, we have to deal with that issue very conscientiously. They're especially concentrated in rural areas, isolated areas, such as the Amazon region. So we feel that distributed energy sources, renewables, can be a good mechanism to target that potential problem. The third, the energy security issue of the trilemma. We have an abundance of energy resources in Latin America, both renewables and conventional fossil fuels. We have 20% of world oil reserves, and we have only used about 1/5 or so, or less than 1/4 of our hydro potential, for example. So that there are plenty of opportunities to satisfy energy security needs across the region, especially if we advance on the integration front of our energy systems. Of course, we have very important challenges in dealing, as well as these opportunities, in dealing with the trilemma. I fully agree with Ms. van der Hoeven regarding energy efficiency as the most cost-effective energy supply available to the region and to the world, of course. In fact, our energy consumption per unit of GDP is about twice the average of the OECD countries. So theoretically, Latin America could double its GDP with the same amount of energy consumption as we have now if we could increase our efficiency. Integration, as I mentioned already, is a very important means of promoting energy security to bring the combined resources of the region in an efficient manner, because our resources are not evenly distributed across countries. Therefore, integration can contribute to develop cross-border markets, optimize the use of existing load capacity, especially hydropower, and compensate for differences in climate or hydrology, as well as time zones, thereby reducing overall investment requirements, which is a tremendous benefit also in efficiency. And also, given the high concentration of the Latin American population in urban centers, we have energy and environmental gains to be obtained, especially from improving our public transportation systems and more generally in the development of smart cities. None of these challenges are easy to address, of course, and there are many obstacles along the way. But as I see that my time is running out, John, I would rather leave that for a second opportunity and maybe talk a little bit about what CAF, as a development bank, is doing in the region as well. Thank you.
Okay, Luis, we'll be certain to circle back to you on the development bank side of this. Ricardo, would you like to comment?
Yeah, John, thank you very much. First of all, good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. A big thank you goes to the World Energy Forum for this kind invitation. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is an international financial institution owned by several countries, but one of the most important shareholders is certainly Korea. So for me, it's a little bit coming home from a certain viewpoint. We operate in Central and Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and the Mediterranean basin. In terms of energy, we have a portfolio of investment of around 8 billion euros, divided all over the countries and divided in several sectors. Now, I have to say it's quite difficult to square the circle in the so-called energy trilemma. I mean, certainly energy access, energy security, climate change are all very, very important objectives, one by one, each of them per se. So it's clear that it is very difficult to put more emphasis on one on the other. It is also true that there cannot be a single common and definitive answer, because the size of this triangle is shaped in a different way, region from region and country to country. So in order to find a solution, I think there are certainly global targets, but there are certainly regional and national targets that contribute altogether to this global target. In my opinion, how could we solve this problem? And a little bit, of course, on a broad and general way, without going into very much into details, I think that the biggest role to be played are regulation and technology. And I think that regulation and technology will, in due time, solve the energy trilemma. What do I mean by regulation? By regulation, I mean an effective use of markets. Markets must be efficient. They must, in a sustainable way, price the best energy, and try to say, I'm saying the best energy, not the cheapest. The best energy in a way which is sustainable, in a way which is attractive to all kinds of consumers, and in a way that contribute to work on the climate change issue. The other big area where I think we can solve the dilemma is certainly technology. The development of new technologies can have a huge impact. Look at the impact of the use of hydraulic fracturing in the United States in terms of hydrocarbon, unconventional hydrocarbon production. It has a huge impact not only in terms of employment, economic growth, reindustrialization of part of the country, but also in terms of reduction of CO2 emission. So sometimes you think, what kind of impact would have a commercially viable, sustainable CCS, carbon capture and storage, on the trilemma? And you realize it would be very, very big. I'm using the example of CCS. I could use the example of better wind turbines, better solar. I can have many, many other examples to say, but I think that the answer to the trilemma, just to conclude, will come from efficiently regulated energy markets and technological development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for those comments. Let me try to explore a few of these topics in a little bit more depth. Minister Yildiz, clearly every country faces challenges in trying to overcome the trilemma. I wonder if you could give us some examples of the steps you've taken in Turkey that have gone toward overcoming the trilemma.
Teşekkür ediyorum Sayın Başkan. Tabii kısa bir tahlil daha yapmamız lazım. O da şu: hükümetler vatandaşlarıyla özel sektör arasındaki korelasyonu doğru kurdukları kadar başarılı olurlar. Şunu unutmamak lazım ki dünyadaki bütün finansman yapılarında herhangi bir ülkede herhangi bir yatırım yapılıyorsa bunun tarife yoluyla vatandaş tarafından finanse edildiğini bilmemiz lazım. O döngüyü çok fazla ayrıntılarına girmeden vergi ve diğer kalemleriyle beraber bahsediyorum. Asıl bunu finanse eden vatandaşın tarife yoluyla ödediği paralardır. O zaman bizim şunu çok iyi netleştirmemiz gerekiyor. Vatandaşın daima pahalı ama özel sektörün, yatırımcının da daima ucuz bulduğu bir paradoksu çözmemiz lazım. Hükümetler her iki konuya da kayıtsız kalamazlar. Türkiye yaklaşık %6 ila 8'lik büyüme rakamlarını son 10 yılda sürdürülebilir hale getirdi. Ve yaklaşık 8 milyar dolarlıkta bir yatırımı her yıl gerçekleştiriyor. Ama uluslararası sermaye ile beraber bunu gerçekleştirdiği için dünyadaki global krizden tutun ki, ekonomik krizden tutun ki birçok kalem aslında her ülkeyi ilgilendiriyor. Şimdi düşünün, dünyada 1,4 milyar insanın hala elektrikle tanışmamış olması, Güney Afrika'yı hariç tutarsak Afrika'daki ekvatorun altında kalan 890 milyonluk nüfusun 19,5 milyon nüfuslu New York'un kullandığı elektriğe denk bir elektriği kullanması, dolayısıyla bunun ne kadar eşit dağılımını, dünyada nasıl ne kadar eşit dağıtıldığını bilmek açısından da önemli. Bir yandan ülkeler hak ettiklerinden daha öncesinde bu refah seviyesini satın alıyorlar. Bu çok enteresan bir şey. Çünkü enerji kalemleri ve sanayi kalemleri daima iklime, çevreye borçlu olarak yaşıyorlar. Bizler sanayileşme uğruna çevreyle alakalı hepimizin bildiği ve detaylarına hakim olduğu dünyada bir iklim değişikliği ve şartına doğru gidiyoruz. Bizim 2 derecelik bir iklim değişikliğini tolere edebilmemiz için yapacağımız yatırımları Uluslararası Enerji Ajansı raporlarında belirtti. Şimdi bu 3 denge arasında çevreye rağmen değil, çevreyle beraber ama enerji az güvenli ve aynı zamanda alım gücüyle beraber tüketicinin arasındaki korelasyonu kurmak hükümetlerin tabii ki görevi. Biz şunu bilmemiz lazım. Vatandaşlarımızın alım gücünün hangi ülkede olursa olsun dahilinde kalabilmek, şu anda dünyadaki 90 milyon varillik günlük tüketimi dengede tutabilmeyi aslında gerektiriyor. Bunların yapılabilmesi için de bir kere liberalleşen, serbestleşen ve gerçek ekonomi üzerinde rol oynayabilecek bir finansman yapısı ve bir enerji sermayesinin oluşması lazım. Uluslararası sermaye şu anda her ülkede bunu belli karlılık oranları ile beraber finanse etmek durumunda. Atlamamamız gereken önemli bir husus da şu: teknoloji sahipleriyle o ülkedeki yatırım yapanların ve vatandaşın arasında ne kadar adil paylaştırılıyorsa bu rakam o kadar daha fazla başarılı oluyor demektir. Türkiye son 10 yılda 2 katına çıktı enerji tüketimiyle alakalı konuda ve 2023 yılı hedefleri konusunda da tam 2 katına kadar daha çıkacak. Dolayısıyla bu değişimi, bu büyümeyi doğru yönetebilmek ama vatandaşına sunduğu hizmetleri tahrik etmeden, bütün uluslararası primer enerji kaynakları, ham petrol ve doğal gazla alakalı enerji kaynaklarını kendi içinde balans ederek bunu yapmak durumunda. Türkiye o yüzden yenilenebilir enerji kaynakları ile alakalı şu anda dünya ortalamasının tam 2 katı bir ortalamayla bunu kullandığı için primer enerji kaynakları kendi içerisinde balans edebiliyor ve bunları düzenleyebiliyor. Ben cümlelerimi şöyle tamamlamak isterim. Tabii ki Dünya Enerji Kongresi'nde uluslararası sermaye ile beraber birleştirilecek olan hükümet politikalarının aslında çevreye olan borcunu ödemek üzerine kurgulanması lazım. Bunun mutlaka yapılması lazım. Kendimizden daha çok sevdiğimiz çocuklara ve geleceğimize daha iyi bir dünya bırakabilmek adına.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Maria, the minister has highlighted that Turkey is trying to increase the share of renewables in the supply mix. This seems to be a goal of many countries, and there's been a number of policy levers tried: subsidies, carbon taxes, and so forth. Now, I know you stressed energy efficiency as perhaps the single best way to do this because you cut the demand, and I want to come back to that. But if you focus on the supply mix for a moment, what policy levers have you seen work or fail in trying to shift the energy mix?
The point is you need to be aware of your energy mix as a country, but also as a region. And if you want to change your energy mix, you also have to bear in mind what the consequences are for the region. One example, when Germany decided to step out of nuclear, it does not only have a consequence for Germany, but it has a consequence for Europe, given the position of Germany in the heart of Europe and the interconnectivity with all the other countries around it. So that's my first thing. You can't do things alone. The second thing about renewables, like energy efficiency, like coal, like gas, like oil, like nuclear, renewables have to be part of your energy mix. And what we can see at this moment, that is that renewables are really maturing in many parts of the world. Wind in Brazil, for instance, is an extreme good example. Solar in parts of Turkey, in parts of the Middle East, in parts of North Africa is a good example. Geothermal is a good example in other countries, as is hydro in some countries. But what we also, and that is because costs coming down. And that makes it, that sees to it that there is market development, and because there's market development, we can see that the share of renewables is growing all over the world. But we also recognize that technology is an important factor of that, to bring costs more down and to see that deployment is going to be more and more. And that's where we can see also that in some countries, well, the need to subsidy is still there. But let me just give you one comparison. In 2010, 2011, the amount of subsidy for renewables was around 66 billion US dollars. The subsidy for fossil fuels was more than 520 billion US dollars. So if you really want to do something about renewables and do something about the subsidy for fossil fuels, see where you can combine them. Because, and that's what another point I would like to stress also about social impact, if you really want to change your energy mix, see to it that you involve your people, see to it that you involve your industry, see to it that you involve your neighbors, because you can't do it alone.
I'd like to ask Luis and Ricardo to comment on what it is that you see in a policy environment as someone providing financing that makes it attractive. And perhaps it could be on renewables or it could be other investments. But what is it that governments can do to make their countries more attractive for investment?
Well, thank you again, John. I think the role of multilateral development banks in that context is to fill voids in the markets, market failures, as economists might call them in some cases, and obviously help governments in the institution building side to create the conditions necessary for attracting the investments. We're not in the business of competing with the financial private sectors of the world. Rather, we are complementary. We can assume risks, or at least try and minimize risks, where the financial sector or capital markets might not be able to come in. I'll throw some ideas regarding our experience in Latin America. We are growing in energy consumption at the order of over 30% per decade. And estimates range from $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion for the next 20 years in the energy sector. Obviously, Latin America does not have the depth of the savings requirements needed to face those investments. We're not like the Asian countries where savings are much higher in general. So a bank such as CAF has to play a catalytic role in helping to attract resources. And this, of course, requires, as the minister was saying, reasonable regulatory policies, make it attractive for investors, but at the same time to maintain reasonable prices for consumers. There are obstacles to integration on which CAF is committed to promoting regional integration and sustainable development, and there are difficulties, regulatory and policy differences across countries that have to be harmonized, lack of infrastructure and the difficulties of the geography of Latin America, which is quite large, and we have the Amazon and we have the Andean Mountains. Distrust amongst players. We can play an honest broker role even between countries that have historical rivalries or have had negative experiences in some of these things. But progress is being made in Latin America, slowly, but hopefully surely. There are also limitations in human resources, and we have to help the countries develop policies to attack that issue. And as Ms. van der Hoeven was saying, the efficiency of our subsidy policy leaves a lot to be desired, I must say. And oftentimes our subsidies basically generate distortions in the markets that have to be addressed. She was saying that worldwide subsidies for the fossil fuels are tens of times larger than for renewables, and I think that's a very excellent example of the distortions that we're looking in the context of trying to advance in this trilemma. I hope you will give me an opportunity to speak a little bit about CAF later on. Thank you.
Ricardo.
Well, I will be very, very brief. If you want, 80% of our investment and financing is with the private sector. I think that everybody from government and public sector would tell you the same thing. What do you need to attract private investments? It's a regulatory framework which complies with 3 points. To be predictable, so to be able to know what is going to happen in the future, to be sustainable, so that you don't attract financing in a way that then a consumer cannot pay, and to be transparent. And I would like to put the focus on the word transparent, because transparency belongs both on what the government should provide to attract private investors and what private investors should give to the host government in terms of return, in terms of clarity, transparency, etc. We have to be honest on this. The political cycle and the investment cycle are very, very different. In infrastructure and energy, the investment cycle is often 15, 20, 30 years. Political cycles are shorter than that. So there must be a clear commitment on the long term that the 3 points of predictability, sustainability, and transparency of the regulatory framework must remain there. Thank you.
I wonder if I could follow up with you on investment from the angle of energy efficiency that Maria raised earlier. looks like this would be a good direction for investment and help countries move on all dimensions of the trilemma. Why isn't more of this investment going on?
But listen, it's a very good question, and as I always said, one of my friends always tell me, look, Ricardo, energy efficiency is the low-hanging fruit. But I always say, well, it must be very well ring-fenced because it's not easy to get there. I'm a strong believer in energy efficiency in the residential sector, in public buildings, in industrial process, and certainly the EBRD is doing a lot and has a big fund that operates just in that. What I see is that, if I have to give you a general answer, I see a lot of focus on supply, side in terms of policies, in terms of interest, but far less focus on demand. I think that it may be that we live in a world, in an economic world where there are other targets, other objectives by government, so it's more difficult to concentrate on that. But I think it would be very auspicable that more policies would concentrate on the demand side.
Maria, in your experience, why hasn't there been more focus on the demand side? There does seem to be a lot of the weight of the discussion, even at a forum like this, is on the supply side and shifting the supply mix. Why not more focus on the demand side?
Maybe it's because when you look at the many consumers that we are talking about, they are very different. It's not only about industry, it's end consumers, it's many of them. The other thing is that when we are talking about energy efficiency, we see that there are quite some split incentives. And of course, sometimes the benefits are there and the costs are, the investments are done by another party. And that's again, I think, where something like regulation comes in, to have transparency, that those who are investing also get some of the benefits of it, and at the same time that the end consumers are really incentivized to use it. Because, well, there are quite some benefits. I think it's not only about less costs, but it's also about energy security. And you decrease your import dependency, for instance, as a country. It's about health. It's about climate, not to forget, because you are using less energy. And I would like to mention something else as well. It has also quite an impact on job creation. You mentioned buildings. And I fully agree with you. When you look at energy efficiency in buildings, who is doing that? Who is working there? They are small and medium-sized enterprises. It's job creation as well. So I think it's important that we make it visible. And that means that we have to measure the benefits, measure the consequences, make it visible, and that governments and industry work together. And I agree with Minister Milders, do not forget the public.
Minister Yildiz, I wonder if you could give us your thoughts on energy efficiency and your experience with trying to move that forward in Turkey.
Hangi enerji kaynakları olursa olsun, ister petrol, ister doğalgaz, ister yenilenebilir enerji kaynakları, bütün bunların süzülmüş ve en son haline gelmiş kısmı aslında enerji verimliliği ile alakalı olan kısım. Fakat bundan daha önce hükümetlerin muhatap oldukları önemli bir husustan bahsetmek isterim. O da şu: yenilenebilir enerji kaynakları, ister rüzgar, her ülkenin coğrafyası farklı, ister su, ister güneş, ister jeotermal, isterse biyokütle gibi bütün yenilenebilir enerji kaynaklarının öyle bir optimal noktada olması lazım ki, ben bunu bir koltuk değneklerine benzetiyorum. Yani siz koltuk değnekleriyle sürdürülebilir bir şekilde yürüyemezsiniz. Hatta o ülkenizi koşturamazsınız. Bugün Dünya Enerji Kongresi'nde verdiği sübvansiyondan vazgeçen ülkeleri burada saymayalım. Ama ülkesine göre somut rakamlarla söylüyorum, 17 milyar euro, 30 milyar euro civarında sübvansiyon verip de bu politikalardan nasıl vazgeçirim diye düşünen ülkeler var. O zaman politikaların sürdürülebilir olmasını sağlamak hükümetler için aslında en önemli noktalardan bir tanesi. Biz Türkiye'de şöyle bir uygulama başlattık. Enerji Hanım diye bir proje başlattık. Ve somut olarak elle tutulabilir, kendileri için küçük ama bizler için büyük adımlar oluşturacak 2,5 milyar dolarlık bir tasarruf hedefi koyduk. Ve Türkiye'de son 5 yıl içerisinde artık verimsiz beyaz eşya, verimli olmayan bir beyaz eşya, buzdolabı, çamaşır makinesi, bulaşık makinesi üretimi yasaktır. Dolayısıyla bunun tüketimi de istesek de mümkün olmuyor. Dolayısıyla verimli hale gelmiş oluyoruz. Ev hanımlarının evlerde beyaz eşyayla, tarımsal sulamalarda pompajla, sanayide sanayi uygulamalarıyla beraber ve evlerde yalıtımla alakalı baktığımızda Türkiye'de 8 milyar dolarlık yatırım yapan, enerji yatırımları yapan bir ülkede yıl başına her yıl 8 milyar dolarlıkta tasarruf yapma imkanı çıktı. Bu çok ciddi bir rakam. Yani yatırımlarımızı kendi içimizden finanse etme imkanımız çıktı. Bu çok bizi heyecanlandıran bir husus ve 2023 yılına kadar da biz bu hedeflerimizi mutlaka ama mutlaka inşallah yakalayacağız. Son bir cümleyi şöyle tamamlamak isterim. Bizim ülkemizde belli teşvik bölgeleri var. Enerji yatırımları ile alakalı ve enerji verimliliği ile ilgili enerji tasarrufunu ilgilendiren herhangi bir husus olursa biz en yüksek yatırım bölgelerinden bunları teşvik ediyoruz. Bu hem ülkemize hem bölgemize hem de dünyaya konulmuş bir katkıdır ve geleceğimize ve çevreye olan duyarlılığımızın en önemli göstergelerinden bir tanesidir. Bizler için, aileler için veya ülkeler için kazandığı para, herhangi birimizin kazandığı para harcadığıyla sınırlıdır. Enerji verimliliği ve tasarrufu ile alakalı bir iş yapmak için ille de paranızın çok olması veya az olmasından bağımsız bir konudur bu. Yani dinimizde de birçok dinlerde de israfı yasaklamış dinler. İsraf etmeden olabildiğince iyi kullanmamız lazım. Hem refah seviyemizden, konforumuzdan ödün vermemek ama aynı zamanda da tasarruflu kullanmak.
Thank you. So clearly, I think the panel seems to be pretty strongly agreeing that energy efficiency could be one direction forward to work for countries on trying to work the balance of the energy policy trilemma. I'd like to come now to experiences. Perhaps, Luis, get your comments and thoughts on, as in your experience with CAF, what recommendations would you give to a developing country to work on the energy policy trilemma challenges beyond energy efficiency, which I think clearly seems to be one direction?
Well, I think, as Ricardo mentioned, the regulatory framework is crucial, and he mentioned 3 words: predictability, sustainability, transparency, that I think summarize the need. That's the first. We need the right pricing indicators to stimulate energy consumption in an effective manner, in a conservative manner, if you wish, as well as energy production in an efficient manner. In the area of efficiency, just to give you a small example, one of the roles CAF plays in the region, whether it be in energy, in economics, in the media, in many areas, is the role of a platform for discussion. And we bring together all the players that are involved in energy. Right now we're working on an energy efficiency model for Latin America. I think part of the difficulty from the demand side, just to address that issue, is the fact that it's very dispersed. We need champions. Those champions can be governments, they can be power, electric utilities, or maybe even oil companies. But we need champions to push forward the technologies needed on a very diverse and dispersed manner to address the issue of efficiency. We are, as I said, once you have the right policy structure in place, things tend to fall into place. You can attract foreign direct investment, you can attract capital flows, and development banks can facilitate this process by playing a catalytic role as we do. We work in the areas of physical infrastructure, integration infrastructure amongst countries. We work in the areas of sustainable transportation system, of water and sewerage systems, the mitigation of greenhouse gases, energy efficiency, and the like. So like many other development banks, I'm sure the the EBRD does the same type of activities. We are in many ways trying also to strengthen the institutionality of countries that have certain weaknesses, to make it more attractive, in this case, to make it more attractive for investors to come in and play the role that they are supposed to play. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we're running short on time, so let me just ask each of you for your final thoughts, and if you can summarize it in about 1 minute, that would be terrific. Let me start with you, Ricardo.
I think it's a great panel. I would say that if I had to summarize, and talking to countries that are developing their own energy efficiency plans and regulation and all the rest, I would say look at the experience of your neighbors, look what they've done, look at other countries, look in other regions. I think that there is a lot to learn, both in successful initiatives that have taken place and also in failures. And I absolutely agree with Mrs. van der Even about some kind of policies in Europe where at the moment, yes, we have a lot of renewables, but we also have a huge CCGTs, combined cycle gas turbine fleet, which is used at 10% capacity, and we import coal from the United States. So if you want, there is something there that is not right. It's fine. I think mistakes are made and must be addressed. But for other countries that are looking to develop their own energy strategy and policy, I would say, look around. There are a lot of lessons to be learned.
Luis, your final thoughts.
Well, again, I quote Ricardo on the issue of technology. I think the trilemma problem on a worldwide scale, we are all aware of the fact that despite all our efforts on green fuels and renewables, fossil fuels will continue to play a dominant role for the next 20, 30, 40 years. I attended a conference here in the last couple of days regarding nuclear fusion, and they're talking about 2050 for a pilot reactor. So, you know, we're very far away from massive solutions. And I think it was you who mentioned the carbon capture storage system. I think it's crucial that the world advances, especially the technologically heavyweights in the world, can advance to develop a cost-effective carbon capture and storage system to ensure that the fossil fuels will be used as intelligently as possible in the future. I don't see on a worldwide basis a solution, at least in the foreseeable horizon, other than that one at present time. Thank you.
Maria.
Well, energy-related infrastructure produces the greater part of CO2 emissions, so we can't deny that, and that will go on as fossils are there to stay. Let's not forget about that, although renewables are coming online. Second thing, we still have 1.4 billion people who don't have access to electricity, so my remarks would be, have a stable investment climate, see to it that you use state-of-the-art technology and not yesterday's technology. Don't build subcritical, suboptimal coal mines, for instance. It's not necessary to repeat mistakes that have been made by your neighbors. And my last word would be, I think it's of the utmost importance, whatever energy mix you choose, renewables are part of that, and do not forget about using your energy as efficient as possible.
Thank you. Minister Yıldız.
İnsanlık tarihinde odun, kömür, petrol, doğalgaz ve hidrojen enerjisi bir sonrakinin feasible olması için bir öncekinin pahalanması gerekmiş. Bu bir tehdittir. Ama bunun fırsatı da enerji verimliliği ve tasarrufu ile alakalı hükümetlerin aldığı önlemlerin tabana yayılmasıdır. Yatırımcı ile beraber buluşturulmasıdır. Dünya aslında nimetle külfet ilişkisini düzenlemek gayretinde. Bunun uğraşısında enerji ile alakalı arz güvenlikleri bir nimettir ama çevre ile alakalı konularda bir külfettir. Bunun her ikisinin korelasyonunu yapabilen ülkeler mutlaka hem kendilerine hem de dünyaya büyük katkılar koymuş olacaklardır. Ben bu vesileyle gerçekten başarılı bir panel geçtiği için sizi de tebrik ediyorum Sayın Başkan. Ve 23.'sünün Türkiye'de düzenleneceği Dünya Enerji Kongresi'nde sizleri Hepinizi orada misafir etmekten büyük bir onur duyacağız. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to being in Turkey in 2016, and let me just close the panel by first thanking all of our panelists for their terrific insights and perspectives. I think it's been a real learning experience, I think, for all of us. I think a couple of comments from my side, just to summarize. I think there's a lot of common ground here between industry and government on working towards solutions in the energy policy trilemma. It seems like emerging from this group, there's certainly a focus to try to put as much focus on the demand side and energy efficiency as there has been on the supply side in terms of changing the energy mix. And finally, just that sustainable energy, which is the goal of the trilemma, really requires sustainable policy, which is predictable over time. And I think that will require an enduring partnership between industry and government through time. So with those remarks, let me close this panel and thank you all again for joining me.